All right, CPAC is come and gone for 2013. I couldn't go. I had a show booked with my band 20 Pound Sledge over the weekend. But as it turns out, I think it was a good thing I didn't go to CPAC, because considering what happened while K. Carl Smith was giving his presentation, there could have been a fight that day if I was there. I'll explain after this clip.
I think what happened. Propaganda.
From North Carolina. I appreciate your method, but I have a few.
Sure.
I don't think you've addressed some of my considerations.
Okay.
So maybe you could.
What's that?
I'll lay them out. Maybe you could talk about
it for
me. It seems to me like you're reaching out to voters, your method, your program that you're offering us, at the expense of young white Southern males like myself, my demographic. I study literature, English literature and stuff, and as I read about the past, I really came to love my people and my culture.
Okay.
And that, I know that's anathema. I mean, I know that's
no, it isn't.
bad to say.
That
so
is
nobody said
okay.
that.
Yeah.
It's
So,
okay.
so my question would be, I mean, I feel like my people, my demographic, are being systematically disenfranchised.
Okay.
And furthermore, you know, people like the lady over here in the red shirt applauded and said, "Yay, that's good."
Okay.
My problem is, why can't we be more like Booker T. Washington Republicans and his famous statement that let's be unified like a hand, but separate like the fingers?
Okay. The question is, why can't we be more unified like Booker T. Washington Republicans versus Frederick Douglass? They call Booker T. Washington second to Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was the originator. Okay. So when you study Douglass, Douglass was not.
How about the unity and diversity?
What about it? Douglass talked about that.
Why can't we
Here's an example. Here's an example. When Douglass escaped from slavery, I think 10 years or 20 years after he escaped from slavery, he writes a letter to his former slave master and said, "I forgive you for all the things you did to me."
Forgiving him shelter, food, all those.
No. Listen, wait a minute now.
I'm serious.
Wait now. You just said. Wait. Oh, wait, sir. Let me be honest. Let me address your first question. Yes, let me address the first question. We're gonna move on.
I'll let people throw stuff.
Well, you said something.
I love my people. What's wrong?
Sir?
That's all right. That's all right. I'm one of your people.
Let me address this. Let me see.
Slavery is not a benefit to black people.
Okay, listen up.
Listen up.
Let's go on.
Discussion about also what happened in factory.
Let me address this, please.
Hey, folks,
Let me address this thing.
Hey, Carl, if I can just
We can talk about it.
folks, I love the passion, especially on this topic. It's fantastic. But the presentation is not necessarily meant to be a debate.
That's right.
And the questions are certainly welcome. But let's be respectful for everybody who's here to listen to a presentation. And
That's my demographic.
let's take the debate outside after the presentation.
Forgive them for food and shelter at the expense of what? Depriving them of liberty without due process? Beatings and rapes? Frederick Douglass had scars on his back raised as high as the average sized finger. Was that the price he volunteered to pay for food and shelter? How about watching women get stripped naked and beaten until he saw more blood than skin? Or seeing another slave get shot in the head? Oh, by the way, thanks, and I forgive you for the food and shelter. Yeah, there might have been a fight that day. That's not very Christian of you, Zoe. Yeah, well, Jesus walked in swinging and flipping over tables when he saw the desecration that was going on in his set and wasn't going to tolerate people coming in there and ruining the honor of what that facility was made for. I'm not saying that I would have started swinging, but I would have made it very clear that he done effed up and he laid out some fighting words. Some Republicans are trying to say he was a plant. He wasn't a plant. He was a neo-confederate libertarian. And plant or no plant, why were y'all letting him walk amongst you? I don't know who to be more upset with, Scott Terry or all you CPACers that allowed him to be amongst you when you should have shown him and his cohorts the door at first sighting. If anything would have made the news, it should have been that. See, you Republicans are so desperate to win so bad that you're allowing libertarians to rebrand you. And what comes with libertarians are Lincoln Republican hating neo-Confederate libertarians. And they're a big part of why people think people on the right wing are racist. And you do this to your own peril because you want to win so badly, you sell out. Too many of y'all get all giddy over people like Adam Carolla, who's only mad because his money is threatened with taxes. And now because of this, he gets to be a conservative. Never mind that he's an atheistic, pro-abortion, drug legalizing, prostitute legalizing, marriage redefining, chauvinistic, racist liberal who's made a career of distorting the views of conservatives that these Aki nuts he ran it against looked up to. I'm even disappointed with many in the PJTV audience who praise Adam Carolla for asking California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, what's wrong with blacks and Latinos? I'm looking at the thread on the PJTV Facebook page with disgust and disappointment at these people who like to think of themselves as Reagan conservatives, Reagan, who is celebrated for being the great communicator, yet these so-called conservatives are celebrating Adam Carolla for a question that was communicated very poorly. One of the responses on the thread includes this one from Paul Sullivan, nigger spit, that's all. But you so-called Republicans let him get away with it. Nobody called him out on it. Anyway, who's next? Bill Maher? Bill Maher is going to be the next conservative because he's spoken out against taxes in California. No wonder people think Republicans are all about the money. Too many of you Republicans have so pathetically forgotten the things that made the Republican Party noble and great. I think I'm going to start calling Republicans bipublicans because you think you can have it both ways. You think that you can rebrand yourselves to be likable like liberals, but you want to be conservatives because you're saying we just want government out of the way. As many of y'all want to legalize more dependency. Yeah, that's a funny one. The term bipublicans is also fitting because with this strategy, you're screwing yourselves and ultimately get screwed in the end. Pun definitely intended. Yeah, but we want to get the youth vote. Really? And your appeal to the youth is legalizing drugs, being pro-abortion, redefining marriage, throwing God under the bus, and pretty much showing the same characteristics as the liberal ideology, just so you can get the vote of know-it-all, freshly legal age voters who, just like you, knew everything like you did when you were their age, right? I'd like to get the youth vote in our tent too, but not like that. Some of y'all will say Andrew Breitbart was more libertarian. Yeah, but there was something about Andrew that separated him from the libertarian mindset. Andrew proved that it wasn't a selfish act. Libertarianism is the most all-about-meism political movement I've seen. Andrew didn't have that selfishness about him. He gave of himself until he dropped. And had Andrew Breitbart seen Scott Terry at CPAC sporting Confederate battle flag colors and his cohorts with a pin that says George Wallace for president, he would have told him to get the hell out because you're going to ruin it for everybody. We don't want you or your twisted neo-Confederate libertarian views here. I see a lot of y'all saying, war, war, I am Breitbart, I am Breitbart. I'm not so sure about that. Now, I'm not going to be one of those who assumes to say that I'm Breitbart. I was created in the Lord's image, not Breitbart's. The Lord is my helmet, sword, and shield of war. A spiritual war manifested as a cultural and political war I'm glad to have been friends with Andrew in. But I want to say big ups to K. Carl for keeping a cool head and staying classy. Because at the end of the day, the white nationalist Scott Terry even saw the excellent character of K. Carl Smith and bought his book. Please visit K. Carl's website, frederickdouglasrepublican.com. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zonation, and yes, I understand that I am probably the most unpopular Republican in the tent. But hey, if I really wanted to be popular for the wrong reasons, I'd be a Democrat. I think I'm going to start calling Republicans bipublicans.